Hi, this is Billie Beene here with another segment of U.S. News by Billie, episode 11. Today's date, April 25, 2023. New. This is my third YouTube channel. I have a subscribe button in the lower right corner of my screen. Thanks for like, subscribe, and share on YouTube and Rumble. Some of the things we'll be covering: weather and Planet X, or the space impact on Earth we're going through right now. U.S. banks moved to be gold-backed. Yeah. And Auroras all the way down to the Texas-Mexico border. What's going on? Some of my sources are God in the Bible, Patriot Subscriber, Ryan Hall, Suspicious Observers, Federal Register, BP, Earthwatch, Dabu 77, Hal Turner, a sequel site, QuoteMedia, Daily Mail, News 360, Strange Sounds, Deseret News, website Space Weather, Beforeitsnews, Mike Adams, and Beforeitsnews SGT interview with Jim Willie. So, let's get started. Okay, so we've been seeing the impact upon the Earth of this coming space event. Suspicious Observers calls it galactic sheet. Mike from around the world calls it waves of energy. Then we know we're most familiar with that term Planet X. So I generally use that term Planet X, and then that communicates to people something in space impacting the Earth. And or some people call it Nibiru. Now it's definitely coming in, and we saw that CME, coronal mass ejection from the sun, that came in about the last week in March. And we had auroras all the way down to Texas and Florida. We had in the Midwest U.S., we had a tornado of an EF5, which is about 200 miles per hour. These things were predicted by Mike from around the world, regularly on Pastor Paul's Thursday night program. We believe Mike works for the NSA. Now, this is also my area. I used to teach high school science, and I went to college in the 90s, and my area was life earth science, and I took a particular interest in geology, space weather, cycles of impact upon the Earth, pole shift, all of these things that we're now seeing come to full fruition right now. And we had that a prediction from the web bots by Cliff High for an ice age in 2030. I believe we're right on track for that. And I had a subscriber who said, Patriot subscriber said, well, how could it be warming up and we're going into an ice age? I'll show you. And this is exactly what we're seeing. So here's the Earth, and we have the electromagnetic shield around the Earth, which has been steadily weakening, which goes along with these long-term cycles, about every 12,000, 6,000, 3,000 years. Typically, they're not an extinction level event. So this is what we're looking at. So this electromagnetic shield generated from inside the Earth protects us from the sun's radiation, and also objects in space impacting the Earth, putting pressure on us, disrupting our gravity, and will cause what's described in the Bible like the earth will wobble, and the sun will disappear, and the moon turns red, and all kinds of things. Okay, we're on that. We're in that time frame now. So the electromagnetic shields around the earth weaken. We have more radiation on the earth, and we are seeing now substantial temperatures in the ocean going up. And when this happens, it melts the glaciers, and this is what we're seeing. So it puts more fresh water into the oceans. And what the fresh water does is it stops the ocean currents that go around and moderate climate on the earth and give us seasons like cold and warm. I know when I was a little girl, I must have been about 4. I asked God, why did you put all of this salt in the water? Because I grew up along the South Texas coast. So when I grew up and went into science, I found out why. The salt in the water makes it denser, and it goes deeper, and then it gets colder, and so it continues the climate cycle. When the temperature in the oceans warms up, it melts the glaciers, releases the fresh water. Yes, we do have a temperature rise on the earth, but what happens is there's no longer warm temperatures in our climate, and so we do go into an ice age. And we have multiple sources to prove this: ocean cores, ice cores, tree cores, and other things. So yeah, we're in that cycle. So now we can expect to see what Mike has been predicting, that we would see the auroras go down to the lower levels, and when we do, we're going to have hypercanes, stronger than any hurricane we've had in the past. One storm cover the entire U.S. Of course, this will be going on a global basis. And so, when we hear about a prediction for a coronal mass ejection to come to Earth and auroras to take place, it's my position now that we need to add possibly to that prediction, because the Earth's electromagnetic shield has dropped dramatically, and I believe we're going to see stronger impacts from coronal mass ejections from the sun in the future. And they're going to impact storms and earthquakes and volcanoes and all kinds of things. It's good time to prep and pray, and definitely to know Jesus. Okay, so Ryan Hall is predicting this week. So we have Florida, Texas, California, coming up to Alaska, and all right. So we have things going on. Canada, Alaska. We would have Russia over here. Pacific Ocean, Cascadia area. The Juan de Fuca plate, we know that has Juan de Fuca crack in it. We have the Costco's tectonic plate that's being jostled. We have Central America down to South America. So also Mike from around the world said when an earthquake takes place anywhere on the earth, this plate is impacted. And when it slips enough, and that recent information from Stan Deyo was that these plates are not lubricating. They are getting stuck, and we can expect the big one in California pretty soon. But every time we have an earthquake anywhere on the earth, it's impacting the Cosco's plate, which is going to impact the major fault lines in California. So now, what is Ryan Hall predicting for this coming week? All across the U.S., we can expect thunderstorms. And Mike from around, and we also have another coronal mass ejection coming in. I'll give you information on that, which I believe will impact this prediction that Ryan Hall is making. Thunderstorms, and we're going to have a warm, we have cold coming down. We have warm right here, and when they meet, we're going to have thunderstorms, and this is going to impact Texas, I think all the way down to the coast. We could have snow in Colorado and New Mexico, and this will be on Wednesday, and hail in Dallas and Texarkana on Tuesday. Thursday, all the way even to East Texas and into the Midwest. Heavy rain, so flash flood in this area. And we know just a few days ago, correlating to that most recent coronal mass ejection from the sun, we had 8 confirmed tornadoes down in Oklahoma with 3 deaths. That was just 3 or 4 days ago. So, flash flooding also can take place. We're going to have 3 to 4 inches of rain, and it's going to be warm on the West Coast, and so that's going on. And as I said, I believe these thunderstorm predictions for this week could also be impacted to possibly have more severe storms correlating to the coming coronal mass ejection. So I'll show you. All right, so we have chatter. So we had recently, March 23, we had auroras down to Texas and Florida. We had an EF5 tornado. Most recently, this is April, about 23. We had that 8 tornadoes down, confirmed in Oklahoma with 3 dead. And the impact on that, we had auroras down to Terralingua, Texas, which is right on the border of Texas, right about here, and Mexico. So we had auroras all the way down to these lower latitudes to Mexico. So May 23, this was March 23, a G4, and we call it a KP8. And this category relates to the aurora. This relates to the impact on magnetic items like satellites and computers and so on. So we had this down. We had auroras in Germany, Poland, and France, so all the way into those lower latitudes. Also in North Carolina, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, California, Oklahoma. It began as a G2, and I think suspicious observers, Ben Davidson, thought it might go to a G3. But his early prediction was he didn't think it would go to a G4, but it did. My thinking was quite possible to go to a G4 because I believe we have increased protection around the Earth from the Earth's electromagnetic shield, and I don't believe we're getting fully accurate information. Well, we can hardly believe that. So in Oklahoma, they had 8 tornadoes confirmed on the ground, 3 dead, reporting by ABC News. It flattened homes and flipped 18-wheelers. So it was an increase. And now we have this. Mr. MBB333 was reporting we had auroras, a G4, in Germany and Poland, and in the states of Washington, Idaho, New York, Utah, Colorado, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So we see a large portion of the U.S. was covered by these auroras. And by the way, as a safety tip, when you see the auroras, stand some distance from them. Don't charge out into those colored areas. Those are charged particles. That's what's causing the beautiful colors we see. That can be dangerous. Okay. We also saw large earthquakes. We saw a 7.3 that was in New Zealand. And we also saw a 7 in the Indonesia area. All right. And the one in New Zealand was 10 kilometers deep. And we saw some in Japan. We also saw some smaller earthquakes occurring in New York and U.S. West Coast Cascadia area. And now we have this. Yeah, suspicious observers talking about what is the impact of a G4 KP8 geomagnetic storm. It begins electric fires, like in electrical circuits. It affects the power grid and computers. It affects the jet stream, which causes it to tighten and increase Earth. Increases the strength of El Nino, which causes Earth, is a hurricane factor. Increases human health. There's a high risk when these CMEs are coming in. It's good to pay attention. What is the G calculation for this sun energy coming in? Is it a G1, a G2, 3, 4? When it gets up to a G4, which is a corresponding KP8 that affects the auroras, the effect on human health, it's an increased pressure on people who have heart problems, seizures, MS, depression, also affects our thinking. And a G4, and it can go on for several days. And that's why I'm wearing now copper-infused gloves. I heard that was good, so we'll see. Okay, it also affects your emotional base. If it impacts people who have depression, it's going to impact other people, emotionally too. It's an electric current. When the CME comes in, that shock wave from the CME, the energy from the sun, passes through the Earth. It passes through us. So yeah. So it's just good, if you're suddenly feeling very depressed or very sad. And I've had those episodes of sadness. It's like, that's not my normal personality. So I'm like, why? And I've come to see that, yes, the sun and the energy on the Earth does have an impact on our health. So if you know it, you just choose to be happy. Yeah. Nothing's wrong. Let's choose to be happy. So now we have this. We have also an earthquake going on in, volcano in Costa Rica that went off April 22nd, Renco de la Vieja, and it sent smoke up into the air, 2,000 feet or 6,560, 2,000 meters are 6,562 feet. So that's going on. And now we have the strange sounds from Steve Quayle's site. Talking about, and other sources are also talking about, 19,000 volcanoes have been located underwater. And they are talking about, it was the Journal of Earth Science that's putting this out, impacts subs. And the example they're giving, I remember, that was China. We have Japan, we have Taiwan, we have Indonesia. All right. So there was a U.S. sub, and I think it was somewhere right about here, and that would have been probably 2021, that had an accident. And the story was it hit a seamount. Now, I still don't fully cover except the story, because we know those submarines have radar going everywhere. Now, the story was it, and this information is from this Earth Space Science, 2 episodes of subs colliding with seamounts. Now, it's possible that the mapping of the ocean floor wasn't accurate because we are going through these tremendous events on the earth, and it was in the fall of 2020 that God said to me, pay attention to the edges of the tectonic plates, and there was a tectonic plate in this area, and I also had supporting corroboration from ETN's earthquake site for my thinking at that time. That was probably a year or so ago. All right, now, so God said, pay attention, the earth is heating up with the magma inside. So it could be that the magma was rising and the seamount suddenly popped up. That is possible, and that is going on right now. This is why they're seeing all these increase in volcanoes underneath the water, and that's from the magma that is rising. So we have changing geology and weather up on the earth. Okay. So yeah, and so we have this. This information about the 19,000 volcanoes was put out by Scripps Chung-Nam National University from South Korea and Hawaii University. Okay, so now we have this. We have suspicious observers. Ben Davidson with his space weather site, talking about the impact of the CME geomagnetic storm can also cause brain fog, outages in our radio and grid. Yeah. And now, today. So today, suspicious observer, 4/25, April 25. He's predicting another CME because we have a wave of energy coming off the sun. So here is the sun. It sends off this energy to the earth. Since our shield around the Earth is weakening, we get more radiation in. This energy passes through the Earth, passes through us. Okay. And he's talking about the last one we just saw a few days ago. We saw the 2.7 earthquakes in Indonesia and New Zealand. We saw also there's a new ionosphere model. This has to do with computers, but it helps us understand the current pole shift we're going through. When the Earth's magnetic field is weakening, we can expect eventually to see what's called a pole shift. Here's the Earth. We have north, we have south. This could actually move in reverse. And we have multiple sources for this. We have ocean cores, where the strata would show different levels, different orientations of the Earth's magnetic field in ocean cores. We have ice cores that correlate. We have tree rings, and we have other types of measurement. So that's going on. And now, so we can expect this CME to arrive. They leave Earth. Now, the light from the sun reaches the Earth in 8 minutes, but this energy from a CME, usually if you hear it's occurred and left the sun on one day, it usually takes 24 to 48 hours. So Ben Davidson is predicting this most recent CME will reach Earth on April 27. Now, he's predicting a G1. So I'm expecting it to be stronger than a G1 just because I believe the Earth's magnetic shield is much weaker than we are being told. Oh, gee. Okay. So now we know what to prep and pray, and definitely what to pray against, because God is in charge. Okay, Mike Adams on Beforeitsnews was putting out some information. This has to do with the Restrict Act that's trying to be passed through Congress. Well, and now we know most of these, 90% haven't taken their oath, so whatever they do is not legal. So, yeah, that's going on. The Restrict Act is similar to that recent act we saw raised in Israel, that the millions of Israeli citizens rose up against, making it a crime to talk about Jesus Christ, and you could go to jail for 2 years and eventually be beheaded if global Noahide laws come into effect. The Restrict Act is the U.S. form of Noahide, to make it illegal to talk about Jesus Christ, to put it on the internet, to put it in newspapers, they want to destroy the Christian religion and eventually put Christians in prison or behead them. Restrict law is the Noahide form of the Noahide law that we recently saw raised up in Israel, and the people rose up in millions in revolt, and their military also sided with the people. So that's going on. Now, Tulsi Gabbard has also spoken out against this Restrict Act. So, yeah, there you have it. And now we have this from Mike Adams talking about the U.S. Federal Attorney General Merrick Garland has admitted in a hearing before Congress that he suppressed information about the Hunter laptop. Now, Merrick Garland, something came out about him about 6 months ago, and I did a little research. Yeah, he was also the AG in Oklahoma when the Murrah building went down. And now we know it went down based on internal explosives. It imploded, set in the building. And, can we believe it? It's similar to 9/11 in terms of who did it. And also the prophet Amanda Grace had a word from the Lord about Merrick Garland and his secret relationship with the president's wife. So yeah, that's going on. So this is coming out about Merrick Garland covering up about Hunter's laptop from an IRS agent, former agent. Now, apparently, yes, we can believe in all these agencies and groups there are a few good people. Maybe when they get out, they don't want to face God unless they've done something to rectify what's gone on. So it's an IRS agent whistleblower who's bringing out this information about Merrick Garland. Yeah, so we believe it. And I will say this. We are beginning to see across multiple genres, different types of media, information coming out about this laptop, Hunter laptop, on which was information incriminating the real JB, which we know the individual we see as an actor puppet. But this is coming up, and also information about, so Hunter was in Ukraine reaping money from Burisma, some kind of energy company there, as were also family members of other individuals in Congress. And it was all on this laptop. And it is coming up and even going a little bit on the mainstream media, the TV channels, and so on. So I believe the white hats are bringing this up. And some are saying, yeah, maybe by June we'll see President Trump back in the saddle. Okay. So SGT on Beforeitsnews had a recent interview with Willie. He's a PhD economist from Costa Rica, talking about the U.S. stock exchange going down and being 5 times worse than the Lehman event that happened about in 2009, and it was some kind of big Wall Street business, broker, stockbroker, and it overnight went away, had trillions of dollars, went away. Okay. So that was like the, I guess, sacrificial lamb, Lehman. So Jim Willie is predicting now an event 5 times worse than Lehman to take place. He's also talking about the information coming out about Chinese crossing the U.S. southern border. Yeah, that's going on. And he says Janet Yellen, the current leader of the U.S. Treasury, was smart to back all deposits. And now, because there's no FDIC in Europe, from Europe, we can see moving to the U.S. $1 trillion, and that'll help balance out what American citizens have currently withdrawn, about that same amount. So that's going on. Now, Jim is continuing to say what the banks that are in some will have some pressure on them are the larger banks. And he believes the regional banks, if you're in like 1, 2, or 3 states, are well-managed banks, and they are solid with the deposits of their, local people. So I believe that too. And now we see we're going through a transition. I believe it appears that the white hats are in charge of this. I don't think it would be the black hats. So we have from QuoteMedia, we have 23 states that are moving to gold back for their banks as being legal tender per the U.S. Constitution, and to have 0 tax on the gold or silver, the precious metals, and for the state treasury of each of these states, they would maintain 1% reserve. That means they have to be cash liquid with 1% of their total deposits. So that's going on. Yeah. And then an option would be for the people. I brought that out recently. That's what's being passed and done in Texas, that you could have gold, you could deposit it in your bank or your depository and have a digital card. And I had a Patriot subscriber who said, why would I want a digital card? It's because the gold is so heavy to carry around that you would want a digital bank card that works against the gold that you have deposited. Now, we also anticipate a new currency called the rainbow currency, because we know a characteristic, or I believe a characteristic of a free society, is that they do have a form of cash that flows from the top to the bottom of their society. That is one of the benchmarks, I believe, of free society, as opposed to having no cash, no currency, no coins in your society, and everything is controlled digitally. I believe that's dangerous. And there are a lot of people around the world and in the United States who also believe that. So now the states that are proposing to go gold-backed, have a gold-backed for their banks and their currency. We see Montana, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, Vermont, Maine, Oregon, Mississippi, South Carolina, Arizona, Kentucky, West Virginia, Idaho, Texas. And we find out that Utah and Wyoming already have it in place, and Oklahoma is in transition. So that's going on. Now we have this from Steve Quayle. Had one of his Patriot subscribers sent this information in, and it had to do with a Wells Fargo bank that's located in Valier, Montana. Now, all right, and I'll also mention this, Nigeria. That was Hal Turner's information. Okay, so for this bank, Wells Fargo proposed that they go cashless, and they were closing many of their ATMs. but you could go to the bank and you could still get up to $5,000 in cash. So I'm speculating that they were trying to put this forth, but the people don't like it in Valier, Montana. So yeah, that's going on. And now we have this. What's going on with our economy? So we have some more Walmarts to close, and we're seeing other large retailers close. They're going to close some more locations located in South Bend, Indiana, Forest Park, Ohio, Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, Louisville, Kentucky, Everett, Washington, and Honolulu, Hawaii. And now we have this. We have, I got this off of the Federal Register. Now, I've had a job in the past where I went to the Federal Register. Anyone can go to this site and it lists anything the federal government is doing. Rules or laws they're trying to pass, meetings of any government agencies, and so on. So I found this out. The Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas is going to take over the Bank of Llewellyn, Nebraska. Apparently, it serves a rural community. So that's going on. And now we have this. So we have Jim Willie's talking about, it's proposed that FedNow, which is a digital bank system. Let's see, let me do Nigeria. All right, Al Turner. FedNow is a digital U.S. bank system. And we also had some recent information from Judge Napalitano about a digital citizen ID law to be put in place. Well, years ago, in the state of Texas, we had to go to what was a federal requirement called a gold driver's license. And you initially, I think maybe I had to take my birth certificate. I think it's almost like a passport, but you definitely, every time I go to get it renewed, I have to give my fingerprints. So yeah, that's going on. There's already, and it's facial, and now they keep changing it. And recently I had to set up my Google YouTube account, and I had to send Google a digital copy of the front and back of my driver's license. So the way I finally figured out to do that was to use my camera, and I stood there and held it, and I could send that to their location, and they accepted it. I had to do it several times and put more light closer because there were shadows on it, but I got it done. I'm just saying, digital facial and fingerprint, and Mike from around the world says they already have DNA on databases of all citizens. So yeah, this is going on, but I believe this correlates. So Jim Willie is reporting FedNow would be the U.S. digital system, which the American people are not going to accept. Now, Nigeria. Okay, this information came out from Hal Turner. Nigeria, their government, put in place a digital bank system. And they immediately told the people in Nigeria, your current currency you have and coins you have is no good. We're not accepting it anywhere. You can't use it to buy food or anything else. So you had to go to the bank and turn it in, but you didn't get currency in exchange for it. You got a digital bank system. And the people of Nigeria did not like that. But what the government did was the people of Nigeria need per day about $40 per day to live. So the evil and corrupt government, deep state government of Nigeria said, no, you can only get $40 per week. And they actually had some people in their rural areas, according to the information received by Hal Turner, starved to death. So we see a digital bank system is an overreach by any government and is to be resisted by all people everywhere. So we need to pray for the people in Nigeria. Now, so Jim Willie is saying FedNow is proposing to go live in the U.S. by July. I don't think they'll last until... I don't see it. All right. And yeah, he's supporting his position on the small regional banks are good. Now, we have this. Yeah, we have, yeah. We know the deep state wants this and that. All right. So now we'll go to a news source. This is Deseret News on Steve Quayle's site, talking about banks that are on Moody's watch list. And this has to do with the stock market. And some of these banks are Co-America, First Republic. Now this First Republic, according to Hal Turner's information that came out yesterday, has gone almost 57% of its deposits have withdrawn, and it is dropping in its share value on the stock market. So that was Co-America, First Republic, Intrust Financial Corp, UMB Financial Corp, West Alliance Bank Corp, Zions Bank Corp, and yeah, some of these banks were on the same list as that Silicon Valley Bank a few weeks ago. First Republic, Western Alliance, Zions, yeah, they were all on that initial list with Silicon Valley Bank. And so we have that. So we have different banks going down in different values. Okay. So now, a short prayer for America. So what we see is we have weather developing, and it would be good to just pay attention to the CMAs coming in. You can do it by going to a site, Space Weather. Suspicious Observers comes out almost every morning and gives a report, and he's science-based, so that's good. Okay, a prayer for America. It's based on America the Beautiful. Music and lyrics written by Bates and Ward. America, may our skies remain forever clear and blue. May amber waves of grain ever fill our plains. May pilgrim feet ever seek our shores who are aligned with God. To walk in a land of freedom by constitution, in a land of liberty by law, in a land of grace by blessing from God. And we say, God bless America. Beautiful place, of patriot dreams and of brotherhood from sea to shining sea. And we thank you, God the Father, God the Son, Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, and God the Holy Spirit. I say to my family and friends, remain steady out there, continue to pray and prep. I love you, and I'll see you soon. And it's good to remember, God is in charge, and He is on the move.